so the story goes, founded the city on the Palatine Hill in 753 BC. A small village in a not very prepossessing location with its marketplace on marshy ground between the Palatine and the Capitoline Hills grew to be the birthplace of modern civilization. It was not a quick nor an easy transition, and the martial history of Rome is marked at its outset by many defeats at the hands of the other Italian tribes of the time. But their persistence paid off, and by the 3rd century BC, the Romans had conquered most of it. This brought them into conflict with the Greeks. It was the conquering of this more advanced people that propelled the Romans into becoming great cultural as well as great martial imperialists. The arts and sciences of Greece flowed into Rome. Medicine, astronomy, literature, rhetoric, and of course, architecture.
The Romans had the largest empire that the Western world has really ever known in terms of the physical extent of it. And in the sense that they conquered the whole of the world in terms of peoples and places, they also conquered nature to some extent. If you think about Roman roads, Roman aqueducts, Roman harbours, they were changing the shape of the whole of the landscape, cutting roads through mountains, making tunnels, cuttings, taking water over lands and therefore making rivers, making solid structures.
Likewise, the Temple of Vesta, the goddess of the hearth, was first built in the 6th century BC as no more than a wooden hut. But the remains we can see here date from the 3rd century AD. It was here that the great symbol of Rome's endurance was tendered, the eternal flame. Its maintenance was entrusted to the Vestal priestess, and the sacredness of their vocation was such that each was expected to swear an oath of chastity and to keep it on pain of being buried alive. The remains of their house can also be seen, although again the traces of this building, dating from after 64 AD, hide those of the much more ancient building which would have sheltered the first of the Vestal Virgins. Beyond this can be seen the most famous of the treasures of ancient Rome, and this is no solemn place of worship dedicated to a god or deified man, nor is it an arch erected to celebrate some triumph by a great emperor. It is a monument to the Romans' ability to enjoy themselves, and enjoy themselves in ways which would turn the stomachs of most people today. Commissioned in 72 AD as the Flavian Amphitheatre and built in the grounds of Nero's Golden Palace, the Colosseum was completed in the reign of Titus in 80 AD. That any of it remains is a wonder, that despite being used in gladiatorial contests.
Well, the Colosseum is often in popular view merely a place for rather bloodthirsty entertainment, but it is important to remember that the very organisation of these gladiatorial shows, wild animal hunts, had a very serious religious function. The origins go back into the Republican period in Rome. Gladiatorial games were held on the occasion of important funerals or funerals of important men, and continued throughout the rest of the imperial period to be held, especially on the occasion of imperial funerals. Private individuals could, if they were very wealthy, also organise gladiatorial games as part of their funeral celebrations. But the Colosseum would be used principally for one major festival in December, which was the point at which the magistrates of the city changed over. It's the whole yearly cycle of political and religious existence in the city that the incoming magistrates would pay for a set of games in the Colosseum. And the ritual itself was thought to be both hardening, as it were. It was a shocking experience to see people killed, but it was meant to be bound up with the idea that Roman society as a whole required that sort of ability to confront death.
An interesting and surprising detail of these games is that they seem to have involved female gladiators. When the Roman writer Martial wrote a book celebrating the games, he noted that noble tradition tells how Hercules slew the lion in the wastes of the Nemean Valley. Let the ancient tale be reduced to silence. After your shows, Caesar, we can say that we have seen such deeds performed by a woman's hand. There is, however, no evidence that the Colosseum was ever the venue for the sacrifice of Christians to the lions. Today, the underground passages where animals were caged are exposed to the air. Originally, a wooden floor would have lain over these, which would have been covered with sand to resemble solid ground and to soak up the blood.
In the woods and glens of Italy. And Crassus's agenda was to get a command, get a glory, to establish himself as a frontline figure in Rome. The Senate's agenda, or their opponents in the Senate's agenda, was to stop them. There was this perpetual struggle to prevent any individual from getting to him.
Augustus was also a great patron of the arts. Virgil, Horace, and Ovid all flourished under his patronage, although the last of these eventually fell from favour and was finally exiled. Virgil's great masterpiece, the Aeneid, was dedicated to the emperor, who, like the poem's hero Aeneas, was said to be descended from the goddess Venus. Aeneas was also the founder of the Roman people, and Virgil intended his characterization to embody the qualities of purposefulness and service which he knew Augustus valued.
The other change that Augustus brought up was that after his reign, only the emperors were able to build temples or other major public structures. If you think about the famous buildings, they are the Forum of Augustus, the Forum of Trajan, the Baths of Caracalla. All of these major buildings are named after the emperors. Or the temples, they're rebuildings, the Temple of Castor and Pollux, Temple of Antoninus and Faustina, the Pantheon itself, are all buildings built by, for the emperors. No other individual leaves his name on a building after the time of Augustus.
Ben Joseph was executed by crucifixion. Tiberius probably never heard of a man called Jesus the Christ in Greek, and even if he had, would not have imagined that eventually his cult would become the dominant religion of the Roman people, after great Jupiter and Neptune and all the other pagan gods had begun to be forgotten. The site of his mother's house is relatively small and simple, next to the sprawling magnificence of the Palace of Domitian, which dates from the end of the 1st century AD. Domitian was perhaps the cruelest of Rome's tyrannical emperors, and was responsible for the most bloody of the persecutions of the Christians. It is perhaps apt that he came to one of the bloodiest ends to befall a Roman emperor, when he was murdered by an ex-slave in 96 AD.
Wow.
During the last 3 centuries BC, the Forum gradually got more and more architecturally enhanced, as they say. But as Rome took over the rest of the Mediterranean, and particularly the Eastern Mediterranean and all the Greek cities, it imported back to Rome the models that they'd seen up there, this marvellous public architecture and stone. And the Roman Forum was one of the major focuses of this new imported architecture. And they built great basilicas and hospices, the temples got rebuilt, everything got ever more luxury architecture.
All of these sacred buildings lie along what was called the Via Sacra. Nearby, on the Forum, was the site of the Temple of Castor and Pollux, twin gods credited with fighting on the side of the Romans in their battles against the Latins in the 5th century BC. The temple was dedicated to them in the 5th century BC, but the 6 Corinthian columns which remain are from 6 AD. The splendid entablature which surmounts it is, however, an addition dating from the time of the mighty Augustus. Further along the road, the much younger Temple of Julius Caesar has fared even less well. The temple where the mortal remains of the famous dictator were brought, where Rome's first great conqueror and empire builder was cremated, where he, whose avowed aim was to outshine Alexander the Great, was deified by his successor Augustus, is now no more than rubble.
I think remember particularly about Romans by the end of the 1st century BC, the first emperor Augustus